Tuned in to www.oghuskyradio.com, broadcasting live from the east side of Los Angeles, worldwide. Special guests every week. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Aone47, K2S, Kill to Succeed crew, non-toyable.
A lot of history in the building we're gonna get into. But let's just start with yourself. What got you into Grav?
My two older cousins basically had to take care of me while my aunt was going out, so they'd take me out to the yard to help them do fill-ins on trains and would beat the shit out of me if I didn't help them do fill-ins.
So is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't know. I mean, here we are 30 plus years later and still infected with the virus.
So it was a good thing then. But you're originally from the West Coast or are you from back east?
Born on the West Coast, but would travel out back and forth.
And then out there, so you're out there with your cousins, you're hitting trains, you're hitting what else? Just pretty much just the trains?
Pretty much trains was the drug.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was nothing like benching, watching them go by, seeing who was up, seeing who was pulling some toy shit, who got smashed out, you know.
And we definitely got to ask, what did your cousins write? Because if they're responsible for the 30-year plus.
One of my cousins, he'd get down on side 4, catching him in effect 4 times. My other cousin, he wrote Odine. And they were the ones who put me down in non-toyable.
So you're going back and forth, and you come back. How do you get the name A1?
Basically, I got to a level where they felt that I was at that point where at that level, if you tampered with me, I'd leave you at your end. Another youth in danger in 147 different ways. I'd abduct your empire, abduct your emotions. You know what I'm saying? Like, names back then had meaning, so
yeah.
It was like short for that. So they laced me up with the name, and I just took it and ran with it.
So we're talking early 80s, and you're telling me off air that it wasn't cool to be a writer in those days.
When I came back from my first trip back east in 82, and my cousins had pushed Graff upon me, all my friends at school disowned me. To them, it was like, oh, you're a vandal. You know, that's wrong. You shouldn't be doing that. But ironically, the hypocrites came back 10 years later in the 90s and were asking me if I was still doing that graffiti thing. Can you airbrush my jackets or my pants when, you know, all that was in fashion? So, you know, basically where I told them they could lay that kiss.
So what you were doing, was it art or was it vandalism?
I never saw myself as an artist. I'm a practitioner of the written form of hip hop, so I'm a vandal. I keep it real, son. I never got in the game to be an artist. I got in the game to kill trains. You know what I mean? That's the way I was taught. My styles were handed down to me as they were handed down to my mentors, and I keep the legacy alive.
So what? You got to break down. What do you mean they're as mentors and passed down? Break all that history down.
People who took me under their wing and sunned me and showed me what styles and techniques were about, how traditional wild styles, traditional fill-ins, you know, compared to all that toy shit that was coming out, people trying to come out with their own Rainbow Bright type of shit, where everybody in town had their own styles and techniques. You knew what borough people was from according to techniques they was rocking.
Do you think the art side of the graffiti, of the element of hip-hop, suffered because the laws have changed and it's more risky, so people don't want to stay there too long, or that shouldn't be an issue? Or
well, I mean, you got old timers like me who's gonna run, you know, I'll keep it real. I still slam a train here and there.
Yeah.
You know, you got to keep that drug in you. You know, it's like a fix of heroin. It ain't nothing like being in the yard smelling that cold steel, but it's harder now because you got to worry about all that felony charges but yet, ironically, the hypocrisy of it being so popularized that you see it on the mainstream media. Oh, it's all cool, graffiti this. Even the makeup industry now, Maybelline's got to line up with graffiti pop. Wait a minute, it's cool for you to use graffiti, but yet if we're expressing ourselves the way we were taught, we're felons? We're looked upon as criminals? How so? Yet you want to call it art and put it in museums, but because we're keeping it real, we're the criminals that are being sought out? That's just not right.
So something like Maybelline, is that selling out the culture? What if someone came to you and asked if you would be partaking some, not necessarily makeup, but like say, you know, Pepsi or something, Coca-Cola?
Put it like this, I'll keep it real, son. I don't even do art shows because I'm not in the game to be an artist. If they want to come and see me, get grimy, get dirty with me, son. Go paint some trains.
So you've never done canvases, or do you have
I've done it. I tried it back in the day in the 90s. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I did murals for the city. I was in the LA Times, and, you know, I tried that whole whoop-de-whoop. But it wasn't me. I didn't feel right. I felt like if my soul was leaving my body, I had to do what I was taught. Be a vandal. Not some sellout in a suit and tie trying to, you know, push a bid for my artwork or trying to sell off a canvas hoping somebody would pay for it or something.
Two parts of the question. What makes you the original, and why did you decide to do this interview?
Well, as long as I've been doing this, I've had other people come up and try to buy my name, and I'm always been willing to battle. I'm hungry for battles.
Okay.
So, you know what I'm saying? And the reason I decided to do the interview was because I've seen so many of these youngsters coming out on social media, just because I don't play the social media game, but they come out trying to claim to be me. Original A1. Where was you? How come you didn't come see me, son? I'd be more than happy to battle.
Let's break it down. What would this battle entail? What are we talking about?
All styles, all letters. I'm not about that art with these characters. You know what I'm saying? Like, keep it real, some nice clean technique styles, like tight wild styles, tight fill-ins with some multiple fills, not no color camouflage like a lot of these new school kids do, trying to hide these wax styles under all these colors. Let's keep it real, and at that, forget this little fancy new school paint. Rock with real shit, Rust-Oleum. That's why I got it tattooed on my arm all day. Keep it real with the grimy paint.
The color scheme, and then the cut. Is that the same reason why we see a lot of cuts in the letters too? It's to compensate for the letter scheme.
Put it like this: I see my letters like b-boys breakdancing. I see hip hop. I see soul. That's what old school wild styles were about. Nowadays, it seems so synthetic. It's hard to see. It's hard to feel the soul in it.
When did it change?
Mid '90s.
Why?
Everybody out here was hogging up their styles. Like, you know, when I was taught, people were handing down their style to keep a legacy alive. Yeah. But seemed to me here in the West Coast, everybody was hogging up their own style. They were scared that people were gonna bite their styles. Instead of trying to, you know, educate the youth and say, yo, this is the way things should be, we could have possibly avoided the whole gang banging era had we have educated the youth instead of encouraging the youth.
What, that part of it, yes, but at the same time, the gang culture was big also too.
I had to deal with all kinds of gangs. I lived in gang-infested neighborhoods who tried to push me into that whole gang life, but I stood my ground. I stood my roots, son. To me, graffiti was what I held on to. That's what kept me going, and that's why I'm still here. I'm not like the rest of them gangbangers who got shot up or locked up. I'm out here still rocking shit.
Tune in to OGHuskyRadio.com. Aone47 up in the spot. So were you into hip hop music or graffiti first?
Hip hop in general. Heard the music, got the taste of the dancing and the graph. It was all around. It was just like basically an overload for the senses just to see all this around. So hip hop in general.
So going back then, you're Radiotron. Any stories about Radiotron?
Just way back. Remember Carmelo running the Radiotron? You know what I mean? It's back, you know, when it was all bombed up for Geo.
And you weren't far from there because you're from the Silver Lake area, correct?
Yeah, pretty much. Like a hop and a skip.
How about Belmont Tunnel?
Oh, Belmont was a stone's throw from where my mom had her shop. So yeah, I remember Belmont when it was still concrete with old LA Bomb Squad pieces up on it, when Geo and Time had burners up on there, when it was still concrete on the small wall. The building was clean.
So now we have people using the names like A1 and not knowing the history that you have within this. Who are some of the other unsung artists that don't get the recognition?
Well, I think that people who deserve recognition are people who are really rocking it. Like, prior to the whole Chaka getting the mainstream recognition, I feel that people like Whisk, people like Sleaze, people, you know, like Minor, Jin, people who are really killing it. Triax, of all people, who used to organize the large meetups when we would get together. You know, it was people like that who deserve the real recognition.
Why have we failed because we didn't archive those stories correctly?
How you gonna archive vandalism realistically, son? You know what I mean?
Just to come and tell their side of the story. You know what I mean?
It's now that we're into this whole new era that we're starting to archive it.
Yeah.
But in our days, the archives were seeing your buses running, seeing your, seeing you up. That archived it right there.
Let's talk. And then you mentioned the meetup. What was the meetup?
Oh man, Triax used to have this habit where he'd call us up back in the 80s when operators were still live operators on the phone. So he'd call all of us, and when the operator would be asking you, collect call from Francisco, do you accept? He'd be yelling in the background, AM, PM, 12 o'clock, don't forget, and would hang up the phone. So we all knew Saturday, AM, PM on Hollywood and Vermont, 12 o'clock, and we'd all lace up like 30, 40 riders deep. And that was when it was riding.
Yeah.
No gang men, nothing. Like guys from all different crews from around all over LA getting together for the one sole purpose to get together to rack and bomb.
OGHuskyRadio.com. So did you stop doing it?
Like I said, I mean, I still, I slam a freight here and there. I got other things going on, in the works that to, run around and it's not like before where you could rack paint. You know what I'm saying?
Internet good or bad for graffiti?
It's cool that it gets it out there. You know what I mean? But I don't know. We'll see where it takes it.
No, so
I'll leave it in the air on that one, man. Like I'm not a fan of the internet myself, so
yeah, because no social media, nothing to promote, no business. So even coming in here just to tell your story, you're not even pushing anything to sell, anything of that nature. I want to make that clear.
I'm just giving my story out. I'm putting out what I've been through, what I've lived in life, and what I'm telling the way I've seen it.
Telling the history.
Yes, sir. Indeed, the history. We got Tyler up in the spot too. So essentially, the styles weren't passed on. The history. How about the rules? Anything?
Nah, you didn't see battles like I remember even into the late 80s when I myself was trying to help organize battles amongst crews just to try to keep it civilized the way it used to be.
Yeah.
Because these youngsters were just wanting to, come on, realistically, how you going to battle with just throw-ups? How you going to battle with just tags? You got to battle each other like with, burners, bring out some letters, keep it like going, you know what I mean? Like heavy duty shit. Not like, how you going to judge a battle with just tags and throw-ups? Anybody could go out and do that. That don't take no skill.
Actually, I'm interested in, for now in 2017, what's something that could be done then? Like we organize a battle. What can we have to take it back to where the way it was? Or?
I think it should be the way it was. Forget about all that gang. If we're writers because of hip hop, then let's write. Let's do it the way it was. Battle one amongst each other. You know what I'm saying? With letters, with styles. Why the hell you got to get up in each other's faces and try to, sit there puffing chests and whatnot? Like, handle it the way writers used to handle it. Why you got to sit there and go get all,
How were those battles judged back then?
Basically, when we were nailing on trains, battling on trains, everything was much more different. Things were, higher stakes. We were hitting trains in the dark, less than 4 feet apart. We had, when they shut off the yard lights, you had no clue as to what color you were spraying. That's why we'd have to write them on the side of the can with a marker, just to know what the hell color you was hitting up with, because they all looked alike. So everybody else would judge it. Basically, all the writing community would judge the battles. Okay. You knew, like toys would obviously get clowned by the rest of the writers at the bench. The people who got down with what they were doing, they got their props. Everybody knew who was killing for the lines, who was running them.
So you actually date back to the original bus bombing. You were able to live the bus bombing era.
Oh yeah, I remember when we started slamming driver's sides, making markers out of chalkboard erasers. you know, with the marsh ink, using deodorants. Yeah, we first pioneered scribing when they transferred from glass to plastic windows.
What'd you used to scribe on it when it was glass?
We used to use the old General scribes.
What's a general scribe?
The ones you would rack at Home Depot or any hardware store back in the day.
That was probably like Builder's Emporium or something.
Yeah,
back then,
pretty
right?
much like
Zodi's or
back,
something.
back in them dinosaur days. Hey, we had our racky spots.
Yeah. Okay, and then, so the general scriber, like it wasn't like an arrowhead or nothing. It was just
Nah,
like
this was before arrowheads even came in the picture.
Okay.
I mean, and that was already scribing didn't even come in until like once the buses transferred over more towards the plastic windows.
Okay.
Once it was glass, that was when you were seeing all the dope marsh ink colors all on the windows,
And
and
it
the
would
sunlight
pop
would
more.
come through and it would pop out. Or you would see like a lot of cats like Sir, Rival, Minor, you know, they were making their own colors on the Sakara shakeables with the uni paint, so they would have like the Krylon flavors. You know, you see those rocking like on the Sunset lines, on the Hollywood line, you know.
Damn. So you're able to live. Those days are. How can I say they're gone? But I'm saying what I want to ask. Graffiti artists made MTA RTD back then a lot of money because now you have advertisements on the driver's side, and you even have like top to bottom advertisements on the buses. Do you see that connection?
Well, basically, it's their way of relieving the vandalism, you know, but I personally think that we need to bring it back. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, let's keep it real. Forget the cameras. Let's start bombing them things again. Let's start seeing it going, you know? But the system is the way the system is.
30 years, was it worth it? Was it worth getting forced to fill in, do those fill-ins in out in the East Coast?
Like I said, who knows how life would have turned out if I would have never gone that route. But here we are.
Go ahead and let them know who we got in the spot, man.
Aone47, Kill to Succeed, still non-toyable.
If there's someone else that's out there and they're writing that, what would be your remedy for them? I mean, what can you tell them? Or
If anybody out there wants to claim to be me, well, you know, come see me, son. I'll be more than happy to battle them any day of the week. You know, and I'll keep it real. We'll battle in the train yard, all style, all fill-in, end-to-end cars, and we'll get busy with it. I'm still getting busy with it, so they want, come see me.
I want to thank you for coming through, man. Any shout-outs before we cut out?
Basically, shout out to my wife, shout out to Jenko, and my boy Husky, and my boy Mame from TDT, and definitely my boy Teller, who's like a brother to me, Teller from UCA, and shout out to Husky Radio.
OG Husky Radio, stay posted. More interviews to come.